right now today are believing that it could actually be in two different locations, just a little bit to the north or just a little bit to the south, which means even if they don't get permission to build it where the Dome of the Rock is, they can still build it right now. And what you've got to understand, folks, is that the Jewish people, they're not looking to do this. Wake up, this is the temple that will exist in the tribulation. They are looking to build this thing not 100 years down the road. The blueprints for the temple are ready now. In fact, a group in Israel called the Temple Mount Faithful are training priests right now to serve in this temple. They've even reconstructed most of the clothing, and the articles are required for worship. It's already done, just sitting waiting for permission. Here's some pictures, folks. You can check this out yourself. Go to templeinstitute.org. Check it out for yourself. Here's a picture of the Temple Mount area. Again, that's the Dome of the Rock. A little bit to the north or a little bit to the south. Jewish archaeologists say, no, we could actually build it there. Okay, is what's going on. Here's the model of the suggested new temple. Already been well planned out. Here's another view of it, looking from the entry. Here's the front view, very ornate. And they're following, again, exactly to the Mosaic law. It's going on right now. Here's the ramp leading up to the altar where they will be offering, once again, Old Testament animal sacrifices. And this is the entryway to the Temple Institute in Jerusalem. This is where they're storing all their articles. This is where they're training the priesthood and everything like that. Here's the first golden menorah constructed since the destruction of the Holy Temple in 70 AD. We'll get to the importance of that in just a second. Here's the garments of the ordinary priest and the loom. It's already done, completely handmade, directly to the Mosaic law. Here's the spinning wheel with colored threads arranged for the high priest's garments. Here's 2 of the 72 golden bells, all of them already made, to be around the hem of the high priest's robe, ready to go. Here's some of the golden flasks needed for water libation. Here's the silver shovel for removing ashes from the altar of sacrifice. Here's the gold and silver plated ram's horn to be blown in the holy temple services. Here's the silver trumpets to announce temple services and regular festivals. Here's one of the harps to be used for music in the temple services. Here's one of the lyres to be used for music in the temple services. They got the instruments already done. Here's some of the wooden and golden lots used to determine which goat will be used for the sacrifice, which one will be the scapegoat as well. Here is the view in the middle, and that is pure gold, folks, of the golden altar of incense in the middle. Here's the actual knives right now sitting ready to go to be used for the sacrifices being offered at the temple. They're done. Here's the reconstructed out of gold, the table of showbread. Here's the laver. There's one of the incense chalices. Here's the actual garments waiting for the high priest. Here's the close-up of the breastplate. No, that's not fake ones you get in a gumball machine. They're spending some serious cash, folks. Those are actual jewels. Okay, in fact, things are getting so close, folks, that for the first time since it was removed by the Romans at the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, the golden menorah is not just finished, it's once again returned to the temple area. And right now, this happened just a couple weeks ago, folks. Wake up. The golden crown for the high priest to serve in the temple is now complete. You will see on this video, they're just waiting for permission to slap it on his head. Let's take a look.
The Bible commands us, "And you shall make a menorah of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the menorah be made." To meet this daunting challenge, the Temple Institute, after many months of intensive research, assembled a team of artisans and craftsmen, engineering experts and scientists, to recreate the golden menorah fit for use in the Holy Temple. The menorah contains 95 pounds of pure gold. Today valued at $2 million, its total weight is 1/2 ton. For 2,000 years, the Jewish people have become accustomed to the scene depicted on the Arch of Titus, notorious symbol of Jewish exile. Our forefathers, forced to carry the sacred vessels of the Holy Temple out of Jerusalem and into exile. Witnessing the menorah once again being carried through the streets of Jerusalem, but this time towards the Holy Temple, filled the people with an overwhelming feeling that history was being reversed, a circle being closed. Shalom. I'm Rabbi Chaim Richman from the Temple Institute in Jerusalem. With me is Rabbi Yehuda Glick, the General Director of the Institute. This is a very historic moment. We have just received the newest vessel that the Institute has been working on for some time now. We have just received it from the craftsman, and it is the golden crown of the high priest. You know that the high priest wears the 8 golden garments, and one of them described in the Torah is a golden crown which sits not on top of his head like a king would wear, but across his forehead, and it carries the words "Holiness unto the Lord," Kodesh Lashem. And this is a very, very special moment, and in fact it's quite historic. And specifically at this time in our modern history, when the people of Israel and the state of Israel are facing very similar dangers to those that our people faced during the story of Hanukkah, both from within and from without, we are facing forces of darkness that really wish to undo the Jewish character of the state of Israel. We at the Temple Institute are continuing our efforts towards the restoration of the service of the temple and the building of the temple.
And as I say, it's ready to be used, and if we find out during this program that they have permission to start building, I think we will be very happy to bring this there.
And our goal is the restoration of the divine service and the rebuilding of the Holy Temple. May it be soon, and may the whole world be uplifted really by the presence of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, once again in this world.
Mazel tov.
Folks, do we have any idea the days we're living in? Oh, that we would be like the men of Issachar, who were men of understanding because they understood the times in which they lived. What are they talking about? They are that close to rebuilding the temple once again, which will be the temple that is mentioned in the time of tribulation. As you guys can clearly see, almost everything is ready right now to rebuild this temple, except for one thing. The Bible calls it the importance of a red heifer. Let's take a look at that passage in Numbers 19, verse 1 through 4. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer," not brown, not green. Don't get the green one, that's probably bad meat. But anyway, the red heifer, okay, without defect or blemish, that has never been under a yoke. Give it to Eleazar the priest, and it's to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar the priest is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tent of the meeting. Folks, according to the Bible, the ashes of a pure, very specific, ashes of a pure red heifer are needed to perform the necessary purification and cleansing rituals that are a part of the service of the temple. But the problem is this: ever since the temple was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD, pure red heifers no longer exist. Until now. Believe it or not, a red heifer was born in Israel just a couple years ago. And even though it ended up having a slight blemish, and hence it was disqualified, here's the point. It just so happens after all these years, after all these centuries, they're starting to appear on the scene again. And then to make matters even more interesting, even if it doesn't happen naturally, get this. We just happen to be living in the days when the first time in man's history we could create a red heifer artificially through genetic engineering and cloning. It's going to happen. And then to make matters even more interesting, for the first time in 1,600 years, we've seen the rebirth of the Jewish Sanhedrin High Council just the last couple of years ago. And then the Jewish people right now are expecting a high expectation of their Messiah, which of course would be the false Messiah, but they're still expecting him at any time. In fact, it's getting so close. Listen to these articles, folks, in the actual Jewish newspapers. Listen to this. You tell me if they're expecting. One rabbi said the most important event in the Messianic era will be the rebuilding of the Holy Temple. It is the act of building the temple. This is the temple in the tribulation. Of the temple, folks, that will establish the identity of the Messiah beyond all shadow of a doubt. The Messiah will be a king over Israel, and a king can only be crowned by the Sanhedrin. Is it in place now? Yes, it is. The reason why he will come to Jerusalem first is to be recognized by the Sanhedrin. Chief Rabbi Beryl Lazar believes that the earth will soon see the coming of the Messiah to judge all mankind. Quote, "We know that he is very near at hand. The Messiah, get this, may well have been born already." Probably the Antichrist is alive and well on the planet too, waiting for that treaty with Israel. The world today, he says, is in a state of described by our sages as the Hevla Mashiach, that is labor. Get this. I don't even know if he knows what's coming out of his mouth. The labor that precedes the coming of a Messiah. That's exactly what Jesus said. His coming was going to happen suddenly as labor pains upon a pregnant woman. He says we are living on the verge of a history. It can be felt everywhere. Do you feel it? And finally, this rabbi says this. Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri called upon the worldwide Jewry to return now to Israel due to natural disasters which threaten to strike the world. Quote, in the future, the Holy One, blessed is He